I've started recording now, so if you'd just like to tell us your full name and your relation to the pit first, please.
Yes, I'm Valerie Mansley, and my father, John Atkinson, was under manager here in 1947 when I was born. I came today because I feel that a perspective of management at the colliery is a story that should be told. And my perspective begins in 1947 when Dad was under manager at Barnsley Main. However, his story down the pits begins in 1930, aged 14, when he goes to work as a pony driver. That was at Warncliffe Silkstone pit. He was at the pit in the day, went to night school at night, and he goes from being a haulage hand. I have to read this because it's so different to what I understand. He was a haulage hand, then a borer, then a machine man, and then a deputy. And it was then that he moved to Barnsley Main. I don't know if anyone's mentioned it, but in May 1947 there was a big accident here, and he was involved going down the colliery afterwards to see how it had happened and what damage there was. Now, in June 1947, when I was born, we lived in a NCB, National Coal Board house, because 1947 was when the coal board came into being. Nationalisation happened. And we were given a 3-bedroomed house to live in, and we still had a lot of perks with that. My father moved to management at Rockingham and then came back to Barnsley Main as an agent. Now, an agent looked after more than one colliery. There was Barnsley Main, there was Wombwell, and there was Warncliffe Silkstone that he managed as an agent. By that time, we'd moved to a bigger house with 4 or 5 bedrooms. We had a gardener. In fact, I still remember his name, Mr. Ibbotson. We had a cleaner for Mum in the house, and we shared a chauffeur. And the chauffeur's name was Lewis. And I remember him taking myself and a friend called Duncan Hoyle, whose father was at that time group manager of the area, and the chauffeur used to take us to our prep school. It was a Triumph Renown car, which was the sort that the Queen used to have, because I remember I used to be waving in it. This time I'd only be about 5 or 6 years old. And we went to Beech Grove Preparatory School, which is just by Lock Park, at the side of Lock Park. And so I had a very, very privileged lifestyle. One thing I did want to mention was the headquarters. The area headquarters that Barnsley Main was part of was at Worsborough Hall, which is on this photograph. Now, Worsborough Hall was a big hall with a lot of land to it as well. And the management made an effort to, I quote, from Mr. J.E. Longdon, who was the area general manager. And they wanted to improve human relations and foster friendship through social activities. So, management set up a social welfare organisation. Now, this organisation, it had an annual gala, it had sports clubs, and it had musical productions. And I have here a programme from the musical production in July 1955, which was the operetta Rosemarie. And it tells you all about the people who acted in it, and all about those involved in it. Now, I have here a picture of my father, just in case anyone does recognise it, and also have a picture of my maternal grandparents at the Coalboard Gala in 1953, in June, Herbert and Edith. And I just thought that would enlighten people.
Brilliant. No, that's perfect.
Is that all right?
That's perfect, thank you very much. Is there anything you want to talk about, perhaps? So did you say you grew up in Barnsley then, did you say?
Yes.
Would you be interested in talking a little bit about Barnsley was like when you were growing up?
I don't know, because I was only in Barnsley, actually in Barnsley, until I was 5 years old. We then, because we got a bigger coalboard house and we moved to Armroyd Lane in Elsica. My father went from agent to group manager. We then got an even bigger house on Kirby Lane in Hood Hill. So memories of Barnsley are very scant, as I was so young. And then he got a promotion to Derbyshire, and I was 9 then. So really, I've lived most of my life in Derbyshire.
Yeah, no, that's completely fine, no problem. I think one thing that's, the last thing I think really, that obviously I don't want to keep you, and I'd love to take a few photos of that, that's okay. But I think what might be quite nice now, last little thing, is just talking about how you feel about the site now, if that's okay.
Yeah.
So maybe what you want to see happen, or what you want people to think of moving forward about the site, if that's okay.
Yeah, sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. No
Yeah.
problem. There we go.
So I was so thrilled to find that a heritage group had been set up, and that all this was still intact, and people can come and visit. I think they're doing a marvellous job here of making the site, sending it back to nature, really. The information boards tell a story too about how the land, the slag heap as we called it, the pit tip, was reclaimed back to nature, and how they've uncovered the rails here where the tubs took the coal and took it to be transported elsewhere. My only regret is that perhaps Barnsley Council haven't helped as much as they could. I do feel this is a site for school children to visit. Now, I'm an ex-teacher, and I know that there are a lot of health and safety issues, forms to fill in, boxes to tick, and one of the main things is there isn't a toilet on the site. So it's very difficult for people to bring school parties here, and I would plead with Barnsley Council to please try and put some facilities in so people can bring groups of school children for half a day or even a day to do educational activities and learn about the pits, because many young children these days have no idea what coal looks like or what happened in the pits. And I think I'm now 76, and I feel that this sort of heritage needs to be passed on.
That's perfect, thank you very much.